we all know that the most important aspect in Diablo games is reaching the end game, because at the end of the day, once you reach the end game, that's where the real game starts. That's what the real games begin, like everybody, every Diablo player knows. So it is very important for you to manage to reach the end game, and I have seen many videos and many people in forums discussing, and I think that people has reached a consensus on choosing the lowest difficulty as possible and just rushing throughout everything to be able to manage to get to the end game that much faster. And it is something that I have seen on people that I have been playing with as well. But I am here to tell you that, then again, this is my personal opinion, but I think that that is the most biggest mistake you can make in this game. As a matter of fact, this is a game that rewards the kind of completionist kind of player, and this is a game where you should be taking your time to do every single little thing that the game has to offer to you. And no, it is not only to have the collections of the game, it has to do with the end game. You are natively going to be that much stronger than the rest of the characters that are just rushing towards the end game, because then they're going to have to come back and do the stuff that they didn't do but you were doing. So let me explain. When you're playing Diablo 4, you have the open world. You have open world activities and you have open world stuff that you need to do that will reward you with little things that might be trivial, but they are actually quite important. When it comes to the legendary aspects that you can get from the dungeons, I do not think that they are as important to you for your main playthrough, because yes, they are very important, they are one of the most important aspects of the game, but you shouldn't be striving to get every single one of them on your main playthrough, because they are going to be class based. As a matter of fact, if you want to play a new class, which we'll get to that later on, then you should just do those dungeons when you're playing that class. But for example, there are different dungeons that actually do have different little things for your class and general class legendary aspects that you should be getting, but those are not the most important aspect. The one that I would say that is one of the most, if not the most important aspect, is the altars of Lilith. You should be getting each and every single one of those little bad boys. There are, I believe, 160 of these guys in the entirety of the game, and I know that it sounds quite a lot, and you might say, dude, I'm planning to make several different playthroughs in this game. I'm not going to grab these things 160 times for each and one of my characters. Well, you don't have to. You only have to do it once, and that is going to be applied for the rest of your characters. And you want to do this because getting the altars of Lilith is going to give you a permanent buff into raw stats, meaning getting altars of Lilith, sometimes they will give you strength, sometimes they will give you intelligence, sometimes they will give you dexterity, and all of the stats that you can think of. But most importantly, they can also give you the currency to spend with this guy, which is where you can gamble for things, you know, just looking for that legendary that you're missing, that you haven't yet unlocked the end game, and you want a little bit of an extra something to fight against that hideous leveling system that Diablo has, where the enemies level up with you and your gear starts to get downgraded that much faster. But it also, this is the guy that gives you that you can trade the Whispering Keys to, and they are actually quite expensive, and if you do not expand your currency back for this thing, you are going to have to come with this guy so many times, and we already have to come to the main towns to change and trade gear and stuff and whatnot. So getting a higher bag, it's always a better idea to do so, and if you're able to do so, then all the better. But like I was saying, the altars of Lilith, you only have to get them once for each realm. And now that I have all of the altars of Lilith, these are every single altar of Lilith that I have here in the Fracture Peaks. And I do not need to bother myself with any of this again. I am planning on making my Barbarian, I am planning on making my Sorcerer, I am planning, that's one of the things. We play this kind of games to make different kind of builds with different kind of classes. We have a main. At the end of the day, I did decide to make the Rogue my main for this game, but I am still already planning my builds. I am already planning the gear that I am going to be using with the rest of my characters, but those characters are going to be that much stronger because I have been grabbing my Altars of Lilith, which give me native permanent buffs that I am always going to be using with my stats. Also, when I manage to reach the end game as soon as I can, I am not going to have the necessity to come back here and look for them. Now, why is this so important? Well, some people might say, well, maybe I just want to rush towards the end game, and then once I have my beefy boy, I can come back here and get those things. You see, that is where I believe, that's where I have my personal opinion, that that is not the most ideal way to do so. Because if you're doing this in your regular playthrough, you are killing stuff, you are doing stuff, you are just exploring the world and gaining XP. And gaining XP for your first playthrough, it is actually something quite nice. At the end of the day, I was level 30 with this character when I managed to leave the Fractured Peaks. And it makes just the rest of the campaign be that much easier and that much affordable when it comes to DPS checks and whatnot. But at the end of the day, right now, I only have to worry about leveling. When you reach the end game, you do not worry about leveling that much. You worry about loot and gear. And you want to do endgame activities. Once you reach that endgame, you do not have time to waste, dude. Once you reach the endgame, you have to grind, because that's what these games are all about. You have to grind, you have to farm, you have to do those endgames activities, you have to do the Tree of the Dead, you have to do all of those places, daily places, and you really do not have time to be doing this stuff. And right now, well, I'm killing two birds in one shot. I'm leveling my character, and I'm also grabbing all of those perma buffs that are going to make my character that much stronger than the rest of the characters that have not gathered their Altars of Lilith. But that is not all. You also have the region progress for the stuff that you can claim, and this is even more important than the Lilith statues, because this thing is going to give you skill points. It's also going to give you Paragon points, and just a single skill point, dude, it is that much more important to get more basic stats. Basic stats you can get even more from gear and skill points as well, but you will notice in most of the cases the most amazing gear, and this is something that is true in previous Diablo games, getting extra skill points for your build. That is how you reach that higher amount of damage, higher amount of DPS, and also it allows you to build a character that much faster. Also, when you're leveling up new characters, this is what deters you, this is what makes Barbarian so difficult to level up, or all of those different classes that struggle at the beginning of the game, because they do not have enough skill points to actually start shining on what they do. This is going to be applied for each and every single one of your characters. So every time you reach a new region, there's 2 layers of level that is going to be locked out of from you to you, because that's once you reach the end game. But then again, once you reach the end game, they are going to be unlocked immediately. And as you can see, I have my total renown points that I've earned right now up there, and that means that as soon as I reach that place, that threshold where I unlock the Torment 3, I'm going to have my max ovals and my Paragon points that I am going to be gathering from the rest of the regions. So I level up my character, and I am not going to have to worry to go back to do all that kind of stuff, because that kind of stuff is boring, because I'm already at the end game. I'm where I am supposed to be doing my end game stuff, my end game activities, like I mentioned before. So your first playthrough, this is a game that rewards a completionist kind of playthrough. Just for the first time, your first character has to be this. The rest of your characters are going to have all of this. The rest of your characters, you are going to be able to ignore the campaign, to ignore the Lilith altars, to ignore the activities, and just boost your character, power level your character with the best means that you find at your hands, at your disposal, to just reach that end game of the game. But your first character has to get all of this. Skill points are very important. Lilith altars are very important. Paragon points are very important. So yeah, your first character should be a completionist. I am not going to say that this is the most mesmerizing game that I have ever seen in my entire life, the most beautiful game that you just want to be out there in the world to explore and do every single little thing, like you have with games like Elden Ring or The Witcher 3 or Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but it is a fun game. I love Diablo. I have always loved Diablo. I grew up playing Diablo and I enjoy the world that Diablo has to offer to you. And if that world that I am exploring for the first time, for the first experience, is going to make my endgame character that much stronger, then it's always a win-win scenario. If you like the content and like and very super appreciate it, no, I told you today you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Have a beautiful day, and obviously you got them gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Goodbye.
Thank you.